Okay.
Did that. Now I'm
Only thing I can do is hope.
Good evening, everyone. I'd like to go ahead and get the September 1st meeting, Committee of the Whole of Administrative Committee to order at 6:01 PM. We'll start with roll call. Paul Johnson here, Sherry Gieske.
Here.
Dave Wiltsey.
Here.
Ray Larson.
Here.
Brent Mueller.
Here.
Brian Curry.
Here.
Tom Wahlberg.
Here.
Lisa Patterson.
Here.
Bill Robertson.
Here.
Sherry Bartel.
Here.
Rodney Riley.
Here.
Freddie De La Trinidad.
Here.
Perfect. Next, I'd accept a motion to approve the August 4th Committee of the Whole Administrative Meeting Minutes and the Executive Session, August 11th, 2022 Finance Meeting and Executive Session Minutes.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Curry, second by Mr. Mueller. Any discussion?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
with respect to August 4th, the adjournment was 7:02 PM. I believe that the main minutes are missing that.
Okay.
And with respect to July 11th, the motion to adjourn the executive session and the motion to adjourn the meeting occurred at 7:06. A little bit more substantively on the treasurer's report, the third bullet point, the treasurer is indicating that the weighted average has jumped from 0.9%. It says an inaudible. So I called him this afternoon and he looked at his report. It's 1.31%.
Okay. Anything further?
No, thank you.
If we could make those changes to those. Anything further? Those changes, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. I accept a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Mueller, seconded by Mr. Larson. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Did we get any emails on public comment? Okay. I do have one public comment from Joan Sage of Comcast. Sage, if you could, when you come up, state your name and address for the record for us, please.
Joan Sage. Hear me? Is this?
If that's on or not, it doesn't sound like it.
Let's see. Here comes Dan.
Hardwire a microphone.
Joan Sage with Comcast, 4450 Kishwaukee Street in Rockford, Illinois. Thank you so much, Chairman and Board. I wanted to bring your attention to a program that Comcast has had in place for over 10 years, but we have been expanding. It's called the Internet Essentials Program. It is for low-income individuals. Those who qualify for years have been able to get our internet for $9.95 a month. That continues, only we have increased speeds. When we started, it was 6/1. Because of the pandemic, we have been increasing those speeds, and right now it is 50/5. And for $29.95, folks can get 100/10. And with everyone's concern, obviously, of having people connected and having access, this is a very important program, and we're happy to offer it. In addition, though, something that is very important for all of you folks to know is that there is a federal program called the Affordable Connectivity Program, and that ACP is where people can get up to a $30 credit on their bill for internet and or phone. So they can use it for, if they have the $9.95, they can use the $9.95 for the internet. The extra $20 could go toward paying for their cell phone bill. Or they could have the increased speeds that are the $29.95, and the $30 would cover that. I've given each of you a flyer that explains this, and I've given you my business card as well, so that if you have questions, you can certainly address that. If people want to go to our store, we have the Xfinity store. It's on State Street in Rockford, very near Portillo's, where Kinko's is and the Men's Warehouse. They can go in there and get assistance. They can make an appointment going on with their phone, or if they have access to make an appointment to save time. Also, our team from the store is willing to go to different locations. So I will be checking with the Keenage Center and with the YMCA and the Housing Authority, because we could even come here. If you want to say we're going to have an event, people can come. Our folks will help them using their equipment. So our goal is, just like yours, to make sure that people do get connected. If there are any questions, I can take those. Otherwise, thank you for your time. I appreciate it.
Questions for Ms. Sage?
Thank you.
Thank you very much for your time. Any further public comment? Seeing none. Mr. Curry.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Starting off in 6 with monthly presentations, Sheriff.
Good evening, everyone. I'll touch on a couple things. We had a really busy, August is always a busy month. We had the fair. Happy to say that we had really 0 issues at the fair, which isn't bad. We had 1 vehicle burglary. We had some fights. Pretty good for when you have 200,000 people there and that's all you walk away from. So I can't say enough for our sheriff's reserves. I'm always talking them up all the time. There are volunteers. And they do such a great job out there where they're dressed like us. I mean, they're people, it's all about being visible. So the more police that are walking around just gives everybody the sense of security, and it really, really works out well. We have our full-time guys out there usually at night, the weekends, the busy times, but I can't say enough for the sheriff's reserves. The sheriff's office couldn't do it without our reserves when it comes to this. So I just kind of want to give a shout out to them. The overtime report, I'm not concerned about the budget at all. Everything's right on cue for the most part. Overtime is always high only because we've had limited staffing across the board for patrol detectives and corrections. So we're about 25,000 over on patrol, 11%. Dispatch, we're 50% over budget, which is almost $50,000 over budget. And corrections is $36,000 over budget, which is about 20% over budget where we should be. And for some of the new members that are here, I'm really not concerned about that other than having our people work too much. Because we're so understaffed, our staffing where we pay employees are way down because obviously we're not paying employees. So that always balances out. So, you may think, well, that's $100,000 over budget. Well, we're probably $500,000 under staffing costs. So I just kind of want to, keep everybody up to date on that. Our staffing levels, we just can't catch a break. Right now we're 2 deputies down and we have 2 in FTO. So that's basically 4 guys down. We were excited. I talked about a year ago, we had one of our sergeants go out with COVID. He's been out for a complete year. He finally came back. We did not think he was ever going to work again. So a lot of physical therapy and his breathing came back and we're thrilled to have him back. So that's great news. The other long-term medical, a shoulder replacement, and he's back. And unfortunately, we had a guy tear his ACL completely last week. So he's going to be out for 6 to 9 months. So we are losing an officer. It's the first one that we've had in a very long time, losing to another department. This is something that, with contract negotiations coming up, this is what sheriff's office across the state have to deal with when it comes to municipality police. This officer, which is a 9-year officer here, he's a complete package, probably one of our best guys. He literally is going to Crystal Lake, which is 35 minutes from his driveway. And he walks in the door at 90,000, which is absolutely shocking. He finishes 1 year of probation. He's at 112, and that's for a patrolman. Again, this is with free agency right now. This is all departments are dealing with this, especially the suburbs because of shortage of police. I talked last month about we usually have 125, 150 people show up for our test. We had 9. So very, very frustrating, but it's going to be a tough negotiations this time around. We have to, I can't say enough, although I may not be part of those negotiations, we have to stay comparable to Belvedere. I think that's back 30, 35 years ago, we lost everybody to Belvedere because walking across the hall, it was that much of a raise. So these are things that we'll have to think about. We just had a guy graduate from the school, PTI. He's doing fabulous. We have another guy in FTO that's doing not so fabulous. We're hiring 2 guys for the September class. So next Thursday at 10 o'clock, everybody is welcome to attend. We're swearing in 2 new guys. I'm very excited. They're both local guys from Boone County, which I've always made a push. We have plenty of qualified people here in our county to be police. One is corrections. Probably last 5 or 6 guys I've hired are probably coming from our corrections facility, which gives everybody a bump up, kills corrections. But so he's coming over, and then we're hiring a local guy, which I struggle with him because I don't think he's the sharpest tool in the test in the drawer. He's a full-time fireman right now. So obviously I have no idea why he would want to come to police work. We're going to give him a shot anyway. Corrections, we're 5 guys down there. We have 1 in FTO, and we have 1 on medical leave. So we're about 7 guys down in corrections. But again, these are things that we're building up to because of, we talked about last month, 2 months ago with January 1st, 1201, we let half our prisoners out because that's the great ideas from the state of Illinois. So half our jail will be let out at 1201. So we are holding that, and I recommend, we keep our staffing levels. I'm not hiring new people right now, but we got to give it a year because I think once people figure out the craziness that's going on, there's going to have to be changes. But it is Illinois, so I'm not sure. So I'm purposely not hiring. I don't want to hire somebody and lay them off in 3 months. So we're going to be running short back in the jail. We're going to be adjusting. And quite frankly, if we don't have a jail, we've always talked about a regional plan. And that's something that obviously, the next group are going to have to look at, which is probably the way to go if we only have 15, 20 people in our jail that used to hold 120 average for the first, 6 years, since I've been over here. It's very, very frustrating. So there's just so much up in the air for next year. So the corrections overtime will clearly increase. But a lot of that, if we can hire them out of the jail, that way we don't have to, we don't have to let them go. If we have to get to that, point. Dispatch center, we are 1 operator short. This is the closest we've been to 16 in years. So we're very hopeful. We have one in standby. So this is the first time we have 3 in training right now. So again, their overtime is high because when they're in training, they really don't count as part of the staff. So we're excited. We have 3 outstanding girls that we've hired in Lingle. They're doing a fantastic job, so we're excited about that. We took a lateral transfer from, and we talked about some of the ones on the negotiating team. We brought a lateral transfer from Elgin. She loves it so much, we're probably going to bring another one from Elgin. So that helps because if we get experience, that's a home run. Our other lateral we took from Cherry Valley. Again, you hate to take from another department. We do offer a lot more opportunities for some of these young kids in some of the small departments. He is working out fantastic. He's already on his own and he's doing a great job. He's going to be a really good deputy for the county. So I can't say enough for our FTOs because all our FTOs, because we've been in this training mode for the last couple of years, they're just doing an outstanding job. Moving on, this is going to be shocking to you. The OC, we have fought the Department of Corrections and actually already sued them once, which I don't believe in, but we have to sue what's coming for us. If you recall, DOC wouldn't take prisoners, so we were housing prisoners at their cost, at our cost. We fought them. A lot of counties didn't, and we stuck to our guns, and we didn't use COVID money for that You know, a lot of counties thought they were cute and used that COVID money for costs for the prisoners. We did not, which we talked about with Dan and Kevin. But if you recall, a couple months ago, we got a check for over $200,000 from them. We didn't lower our fee. We stuck to it. I just got another check for $202,000 this week. So we will give, I mean, don't get me wrong, we're going to be paying for that stuff forever, but at least we got $430,000 of our own money back. But again, that's you know, forefront in fighting the state. We honestly, we never thought we'd see a dime, to be honest with you. But again, that's $437,000 that we've received from the state. So there are, you know, we talked and brought it up, you know, now is the time when we get this money that we don't, you know, aren't expecting. We need to fix some of these, you know, the buildings like we are doing. We're doing a lot of fixing, a lot of repairs because the buildings are going to be here well after all of us are gone and we're going to be in the same spot. So, so that's fantastic news. You know, we're very, very pleased about that. Real quick rundown with the maintenance. You know, we've had so many projects. Finally, things are starting to move because of employees or product. The courthouse roof, I'm excited to say it starts next week. It might be the first time, maybe almost in history, that we don't have any leaks at the courthouse. We may be able to retire all the buckets throughout the entire building.
Don't be crazy.
But yeah, it's early to tell. We'll see how it turns out. But that is great news because we have fought that forever. So that's getting replaced. And as you recall, thank you at the Finance Committee passed it. It was almost $50,000 less than we thought it was going to be. And that was asbestos and things like that. So again, that's huge. We're going to be seal coating lots up there. And that's all budgeted stuff. So we'll be working with Dan on that in the coming weeks. The flat roof of the PSV is getting closer. You know, we've been waiting for material and contracts and things like that. And I think we're very, very close for that to finally. We'd love to have it done this year because there are leaks, and the more leaks, the more damage. So we have to get that done. I was going to talk about it, but I see this is on the agenda. I was going to bring it to the Finance Committee. So I'm not sure if you're going to pass it here or at the Finance Committee with the stairs. We're looking at replacing the stairs that's between the courthouse and the bottom pit parking. Those were put in about 20 some years ago. The railing just will not stay on. We've had people fall. It's a long way down and it's all cement. So that has to be replaced. We budgeted, but clearly not enough for that. The bids came in at roughly right around that $22,000 mark. And that's the removal of all the steps, and that's putting it back in. And it's also installing double handrails. So, you know, we're still money ahead because we saved so much on the roof. But, you know, are they going to vote for that today, you think? Or okay, so we won't have to worry about it at the Finance Committee. So I would highly recommend that we get that done. Got multiple bids. Some didn't return, but Bob Kaler, who did our other cement work, he was actually the low bid. So, so we did. Look around for other prices. Seems like a lot, but it's a lot of work to do what they got to do. So other than that, I would take any questions if anybody has any.
Mr. Mueller?
How many prisoners are you housing currently?
We're usually right around 60.
So
we've already cut in half from what we're normally at. That's because, you know, legalizing most things. So we've been able to cut down. So we're at 60 right now. Probably we'll probably let out 40.
Anything else, Brett?
that's it. Thank you.
Sherry?
Well, as a follow-up, this is a bizarre question, but, you know, the public doesn't pay attention to any of this stuff. Will there be announcements across the state that this is happening with releasing these folks, or?
Well, there's going to be a lot of prisoners looking for housing, of course. So I'm sure that's something that'll come up.
I was hoping maybe we could give people a warning.
It is, and I've been bringing it up at several meetings
right.
and trying to educate people that it's coming. You know, the Sheriff's Association has been kicking things out. Yeah, it's coming. Now, unfortunately, we're only letting out 40. You know, Rockford will let out 350. You know, obviously they don't have any problems over there, so we'll see how that's going to work out.
Go ahead, Gene.
Well, I have follow-ups, but I'll let Dave go next.
That's
Go
okay.
ahead, follow up.
Go ahead.
That's all right.
Sure. The $430,000 that we got back from the lawsuit, that's not restricted or anything, is it?
No, and it wasn't a lawsuit.
Oh, okay.
No,
It
we
was
were
a
talking with the state
muscling
attorney to eventually go after this because we
Okay.
felt very strongly that we should not be paying the bill for the state's prisoners because statutorily they are required to pay for that. So I do got to shout out to the corrections facility. We kept very, very thorough records since day one, really planning on going after them.
So in light of the fact that negotiations are coming up, I shouldn't ask this question, but that money can be used for anything such as capital improvements, salaries.
Actually, we turn it all over to, it's a general fund. So yeah,
Oh, okay.
there's no
All right.
restrictions on that
So-
money. It's strictly the state giving us the money.
So those things that we talked about a million times, at least since you and I've been around, increasing these salaries for these officers has to be part of this. It has to be this. I mean, for a whole lot of our staff, but that has to be utilized for some of it if we're going to stay competitive. Or they're all going to leave.
Yeah, well, we have to stay competitive, even, and we
Yeah.
talked about this across the board, not just police.
Right, exactly.
But, our records people, I mean, we have, our starting records is $14 an hour. I mean, you can go to Culver's and make 18. So we need to keep, the biggest thing is we can pay people whatever we want to pay them. But to keep the best people, we have to at least pay them fair, and I think that's the biggest thing that we need to look at. We're not paying them over the price because they will stay here. I believe the environment is good, but you can't blame people. The one officer that's leaving, literally because he's tier 2, he has to work 23 years more than his 9 years. Over those 23 years by going to Crystal Lake, he will make $1 million. Kind of puts it in perspective, although $1 million isn't what it used to be. That's still a lot of money. So when he loved being here, but when his wife gets to stay home and take care of the kids now and he still gets a raise, we can't blame employees for doing that.
I guess I'll just restate what I see, you hear me say all the time. I don't want us to waste this money. I want to make sure this money is used to improve all these sorts of things.
When I will say honestly, over the last year or so, we have really invested a lot in our buildings. We've really pounded on our buildings, our buildings. They have to be fixed. When we literally have 15 to 20 buckets throughout the courthouse catching water, I mean, these buildings are going to be here well beyond all of us. So I'm very happy that the county, has been able to fix these long-term needs that we've had. So there's been a lot of improvements.
Yep.
So I don't believe we're wasting our money at all. It's going good.
Dave Wiltsey.
Thank you. 4 short questions, hopefully. At one point you had said January 1, they were going to let people out. And then I think you just said it was December 1st for 60 people.
No. January 1201
Oh, 1201.
at 12 a.m. 1.
All right. And it's approximately 60 we're going to release.
No.
Nope.
Okay.
But again, that's always changing. It depends who we actually.
Prisoners now will,
Yeah, if it was today, we figured out, with the state's attorney's office and the judges, this is how many would be let out if it was today.
Okay.
That scenario could be, it could be letting 50 out or it could be letting 20 out. It just depends. We will have everything ready to go for that 1201.
Obviously, I was confused on the numbers. Thank you. On the stairs issue, I noticed there was 2 different prices being a double rail or a single rail. I noticed the photograph showed a single rail. Has anybody fallen on the non-rail side? Seems to me that it's $1,700. It's cost effective to go with two rails down the stairs.
Clearly. And I would highly recommend we go 2 rails.
Okay.
We have people passing, we have people right-handed, we have people left-handed. It's such a steep, it is really a steep drop
Yes.
that we have to do whatever we can to make it safe. And $17, one person falls down, we'll pay for the whole thing.
Okay. And the last question is, do you know when the Belvedere contract is up for negotiation?
They just settled.
They just settled.
Yes, which is perfect time.
Is it a 3-year contract or
It might be a 4-year contract,
4-year?
but it's at least at a minimum of 3 years.
So your office has all those numbers.
We would have those, yep.
Thank you. That's all I have. Thank you.
Any other questions in the boardroom? All right, thank you, Sheriff. Next is Highway Department. Justin?
I've got a report on board docs for you. Just a few items. One item that's not on there, I just found out this morning, is our salt prices. So I'll give you the bad news first. Salt prices, as we expected, went up. Unfortunately, they went up 55%. So last year we were paying $55 a ton. This coming season we'll be paying $84.52 a ton. So, and you know, some of the other counties, Lee County is 107, Ogle County is 105. So, I mean, you know, looking at some other areas were not as bad as them, but it was definitely an increase. Budgetary wise, we will be fine. We filled up the shed to the rafters last year anticipating this. So we have a minimum to meet the contract, and ultimately I don't foresee any budgetary problems. The first item on there on the list is the Piscataquis Creek Connection project. If you recall, we got $520,000 from Morrow and PC for that project. Just started construction this morning on that. So everything's going pretty well with that. Second item is the jurisdictional transfer. This is one item that I hope to bring up next week. We're talking with the city to transfer the Genoa Road, basically in front of Walmart, between US 20 and I-90. That segment of road is very urbanized. You know, the county highway department does good on rural routes. When you get into multi-lane, turn lanes, all that kind of stuff going on, you know, it's a kind of different operation than, you know, flying down Woodstock Road. You know, it's, you got traffic, you got, you know, different types of operations. And the volumes are substantially different. That's probably about, you know, 15 to 20,000 vehicles a day there versus, you know, 3,000 or 4,000 on a, you know, Caledonia or Woodstock Road. So, this is a great opportunity for us to put that road into a jurisdiction that is more capable of handling that. They have the means to do signal work in-house. We don't. There's I could go on you know, that this is the best way to go. It will not impact our revenue. Obviously, our long-term expenses would go down, you know, not having this road. Like I said, I hope to bring that in front of the board and hopefully get support, or bring it in front of the committee next week, get support on that. Number 3 is Caledonia Road. You know, school started a week ago Wednesday. We got it done a week ago Tuesday. So we got this project done. If you notice in the photo, that orange stick thing sticking up, that's a ComEd facility. That's a guy wire that I've been working with ComEd to relocate that pole in the guy wire for over a year now. And ComEd is always a problem on doing things like this. So we'll see if hopefully nobody clips it, but it's right a foot away from the edge of the asphalt. But we did get this done. We've gotten a lot of complimentary calls on this from both the village and residents up there. This is apparently solving the situation. And we still have some seeding to do and some other things. And I just want to mention, this was all done in-house. So this was all done with cooperation of, you know, unfortunately our guys. I was actually out on a roller because we got guys that are out right now. And so it was pretty fun. We did it in-house with the cooperation of Boone County guys, Bonus Township, Manchester. We used their roller. They've got the best roller in the county for some reason right now, but we used their equipment, and Belvedere Township. So there's 3 townships that all chipped in. It came out, it doesn't look the best right now, but it's functional. And then once we overlay that whole road, it'll all blend in together real well. So that's something that is, and the cost of that is roughly 15% of what we would have paid. So we're, you know, if we would have went out to bid on it, it's a very positive thing that occurred here a couple weeks ago. Item number 4, another positive note is we received a grant from the Illinois Special Bridge Program, $1,772,000 grant, 80% of the cost of replacing Woodstock Road Bridge over the Piscataquis. That's a timber substructure bridge that's got to get replaced here soon. It's not load posted yet, but we were successful in getting that money. And one part of that is that, you know, some of you may recall, you know, so I've been applying for these grants. I do this quite often, and more that you have in the hopper and the more times that you've been asking for the money, usually they'll end up, it's a competitive grant. Usually it helps your chances. We've gotten 2 grants through this program, right around that $2 million mark the last 2 years. So this grant is earmarked for 2027. However, I will mention that the grant that we're using for Beaver Creek over the Poplar Grove Road over Beaver Creek, that was earmarked for 2026, and we've got approval to spend that money next year. So, usually what happens is the state puts aside $50 million. So the other thing too is this grant pool is $50 million that we're competing against other counties, other municipalities throughout the state of Illinois. So it's a very competitive process. We've been extremely fortunate and lucky to get these. But what happens is, somebody at another agency might not be ready. So that money's still sitting out there. So if I put myself in line, I'm ready to go, I can spend their money and then they have to use my money down the road. So it's kind of a good process that works that way. So on that, we discussed putting in or straighten out those curves on Woodstock Road as part of this project. Because once we take the bridge out, it's a great time to make some other improvements. With the bridge being out, we can do some realignments or do some improvements with minimizing the impact. The impacts are already there, so this is the time to do that. There's different options on what we can do in that corridor, and I've brought this in front of the committee a little bit in the past. I haven't made any decisions, or there hasn't really been a decision made on which option to use. So what I'm planning, and I just wanted to get this committee's input if there is any I'd like to do a September 19th and a September 20th. It's a Monday, Tuesday meeting, public information gathering meeting. And from there I can, present different options and see if we want to go ahead and maybe make some swooping curves rather than a 90-degree jog that we have out there now. That does impact farmland. We would restore farmland where the existing road's at, but we would have to acquire farmland for a roadway right away at the new alignment. So there's some positive negatives. We can fix some drain. If you're familiar with across from the golf course at Poplar Grove Road, there's always water sitting there. We could, fix some of those types of issues with a realignment as well. So there's some benefits. And then, obviously, this is a pretty substantial thoroughfare for locals, going east-west, between 173 and 20. So, if we can make that more of an efficient process, that would be good. I think that's about all I have.
Sherry?
You said it's on September 19th and 20th. Except this says the 21st, Justin.
It is the 19th and 20th. So Monday, Wednesday.
So this is incorrect in this picture.
21st, correct?
It says September 19th and 21st.
Yep. And that's Monday
that
and Wednesday. I believe that is correct.
Okay,
yes.
So it's not the 20th.
Yeah, I'm sorry if I misspoke.
Okay.
Yeah, it'd be the 19th
okay.
and 21st on a Monday and a Wednesday.
Got it.
And that's, preliminary, I guess, but yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
Can I do one follow-up, please?
Yeah, go ahead.
And Justin, it's not luck that you got these things. It's you.
Well, might be a little bit of creative wording on some of the stuff too. I'm not lying, but.
Luck is only when opportunity meets ambition. So there you go.
No, it's fun.
Mr. Mueller?
The guy that lives at the end of Woodstock Road on the east side of Grange Hall, he said he'd be more than happy to sell his house there.
The one that it tees into there?
Yes.
Well,
Give me the little over the assessed value 2 times, plow it right through.
yeah, and my intent on this is to not to take, whether it's quick take or eminent domain, certainly none of that kind of stuff, but nor structures that would be less cost effective, I guess, but but anything's open, I guess. So thanks for the information.
Any other questions for Justin? Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, moving to section 7, quarterly department presentation, starting with assessment. Jessica, are you on the phone? And county clerk. Julie?
evening.
Good evening.
Oh, I have so much to talk to you about, but I'm not going to talk near as long as what those two do. Make it fast. So first of all, I want to talk about the fair and how well that turned out. Even for us kind of sort of throwing it together for just kind of short notice at the last minute. We had almost every county board member came. Elisa, I worked with her a few times, got to know Elisa, Brent. I had so much fun doing that. Rod, but she really put in the hours. I think between her and Sherry, I think they put in the most hours and for being county board, and they were fantastic. There was one night Rod and Rick and I were working, and one of the last gentlemen that came up to us actually walked away and turned around and looked at us and said, "Thank you for making a difference in our community." Wow. Like, do you have people that come here on county board night to tell us that? No, we don't. It's very rare they even come to our offices to do that. So that was part of the reason why we were there. Some of the byproducts from that was fantastic. We had several members of probation served. All of Rick's staff did, who are phenomenal people who, what a great staff he has. What a great staff Amy Galliano has. They were there. Assessment office, all of them worked at least 1 or 2 shifts. Maria and Tammy were both there several times. We just had such a great turnout and people who wanted to be there. We talked to a lot of residents. A lot of residents had questions about their assessed values or different exemptions. How do we get our property tax lowered was some of the questions. And when Ryan and I worked one night with Justin, and it was the perfect night, we had 2 or 3 veterans who stopped by to ask questions, and just so happened that Ryan was there that night. So that was a huge reason why we were there, so that we could connect with our people who don't normally want to come in, or maybe don't feel comfortable coming in, or don't think about it until they see us. I even had Dan Snow came into the tent one night and thanked us for being there. He said it's great to see that the county was there and was representing. So as he being one of our constituents, he really appreciated that we were there. And I felt really terrible for not including Pam from the get-go, but Pam came over and she's like, "I didn't know you guys were here." So she brought some things to put up for us, and she sat in on a few shifts and answered a lot of questions. So it was such a good experience, but it was even better getting to know people that we don't know that we work with. And so to have that opportunity, we really had a lot of fun. We still need to get our committee back together so we can kind of evaluate some things that we liked, what we didn't. Had a good location, I feel like, but next year we've got some good ideas. I definitely we need things that are more interactive to bring people more into the tent. So I do want to do some kind of mock election with our kids and have them come in and have polling booths set up and have them doing things, because if the kids are coming in to do that, so are their parents who might have questions. We had some fun ideas. Elise and I were brainstorming one night, and we thought maybe it'd be fun to have like some kind of interactive thing for county board members, like a dunk tank or something fun like that.
You're first.
The other fun idea were fat heads. Anybody know what fat heads are? Google it. We're going to do fat heads of all the county board members. So you'll see later what we're going to do. That'll be fun. And we'll just, and have some kind of game, but we need to do something that's more fun and more interactive and having people in. Tomorrow, 2022 yearbooks will be in. Part of the delay for that was having delayed election. Just wanted to make sure that we had everything updated according to that, especially for our precinct committee people. So those would be out tomorrow. They're a nice, beautiful rocket red. Elections. We've got a few things on elections. So right now we're working on the general election for 2022. And we are also beginning to work on 2023's elections. We'll see if we have a primary in February. That will be determined by the city of Belvedere. Right now, they can actually start circulating already because they're their party. So they started the 30th with their packets. So we're starting that already. September 20th. Anybody else with fire districts, school districts, townships, villages, library districts, anybody like that will be actually starting September 20th to circulate. They will file in December for that. So we'll just get past the general election and we'll already start filing all of those kind of things. Then we'll get the ballot and we'll know if we have a February primary. Hopefully we won't, because that's not included in our contract. That's always a much more expensive election to run. You don't have a big turnout, but we still are required to do everything. So hopefully we won't have that, but you know, it's great to see people who actually want to run for these things. So it's kind of a catch-22 there. Let's see. February 28th of next year will be the primary. April 6th will be April 4th will be the election day. You should have received a postcard in the mail over the last week. I've had a huge response to that, mostly positive, had a few negative comments and emails directed my way. Basically, what that was is from the law that changed last year. It was in the omnibus bill a year ago spring, that required us to do permanent vote by mail. But part of that also required us to notify every single registered voter that this program was going to be in place. So that is why you received the card. That is not something you have to do. We've had a lot of calls about that. It is just simply acknowledging that this is the program if they want to do it that way. I will tell you that we've already had, just in the last 2 weeks, over 500 requests for ballots, vote by mail ballots. So we are having a huge response to that. Negative comments were they just don't understand that that's the law and that's what we have to do. We're required to send that out. One thing I will tell you, as part of the legislative committee, we're trying to put forth legislation either in the veto session or in the lame duck session that will be coming up, because right now the law says that we have to notify all of our registered voters by that before the general election, before the consolidated election. Consolidated election is next April. They want us to do it again in January. We already have people who are going to be mad about that because they're going to think that we're wasting their tax dollars. And, you know, it is. Our mailing was a little over $22,000. That's not counting the ones that we're getting back that were undeliverable, that we have to then send a letter out, make sure that they're still there so that we will keep them active in the voter registration rolls. So it is a very expensive thing. All counties do not want to have to do that. We're trying to put in language to get rid of sending it out before the consolidated, but also to allow for an opt-out program. Mm-hmm. So if somebody says, absolutely not, I never want to do this, click, we put them in the opt-out and we no longer send them notices as well. Right now, we're still required to. So we'll see if we can get that passed. So if anybody has any questions about that, please let me know. Again, that is what the law is, regardless of what our feelings are about it. That is what the law is, and we have to run it that way. We have election judge classes coming up in October, and I'm doing it a little bit differently this year. I'm going to have some classes that are geared towards new judges and people who have maybe only served one time. And then I'm going to also have classes for those who are experienced. So they're going to be tailored a little bit differently. I encourage even all of you to attend one of my classes just so that you have an idea of what the laws are. As you know, we've had a lot of issues with questions about whether our elections are fraudulent or not. I encourage you to learn opinions. I encourage you to attend and learn what the laws are, so that maybe you can help some of your constituents understand what we do. Sherry has been great. She actually did attend a class and helped in the 20 election with the vote by mail ballots. And so she knows exactly what kind of effort we put into this and that we have several things in place to prevent fraud from happening. So I encourage you to do that. I will also be encouraging City Council. As I did before, I actually had 3 people a couple of years ago attend classes. So if you're able to do that, we appreciate that a whole lot. We do need election judges. I have to have 5 in every precinct. Coming up for November, I only had to have 3 in this last election. So Republicans, Democrats, we need both of them. One other thing that we do have, we've been trying to automate a lot of our the different things that we do in our office. So clearly, we automated our marriage license process a couple of years ago. And now we're starting to do our DBA applications, the doing business as or assumed name applications. We're actually going to be running that through our Vital Records software where people can initiate that license online. And they're publishing online and being able to pay online. So that will keep them from needing to come into the office as often. It'll be a much more convenient thing for them to do, and it'll be a much more streamlined process for us as well. Final thing, I'm going to toot my own horn just a little bit. Illinois is broken up into 4 zones. Our zone is from Cook County over to Rock Island and about LaSalle County and north. That's the northern zone. So I was elected for the 3rd time as their clerk of the year. I've been in office for 5 years. So out of 5 of those years, I do always then have to go to Springfield and I go up against the other zones and I always lose because I'm not retiring and they always pick a retiree to get it. So I'm thinking, I have 14 more years before I retire.
But that's 13 more clerks of the year, so.
Yes, and for those of you who are my age, and probably you'll understand when I introduce myself in the next meeting, I had to do as Susan Lucci. She knows. Google her too. Any questions about what we've got going on? I also always encourage you to come into the office, sit down with me. A few of you do that, and I appreciate that. Come in and ask me questions because you know I'm more than happy to answer them.
Mr. Riley?
Just real quick, I don't want to put you on the spot, but do you know when those classes are going to be for the election judges? I know you said October, but.
I do have a few of them. I just actually scheduled all of them this morning. October 5th, I have 2 classes that day. And then on October 8th, I also have another class. That's a Saturday morning. I try and break it up because I also use some of the students from the area high school. So I try and make it one that they can attend. So those 3 will be for anybody that is new or has maybe only worked one election. And then October 21st, that's a Friday. I know that I have 1 class that day, and I believe it's October 26th that I have 2 classes, and that will be in the afternoon at 2, and then another one that evening.
Okay, thank you.
Any of those. Welcome to come.
Brent, did you have a question? You got it? Awesome. Dave?
What is the salary for a trained judge next time?
So they all make $145. If for some reason they didn't attend and have served multiple times, they didn't get to attend one of the classes that time, but have served a lot where maybe I allowed them to not because they're that seasoned, then they make $120. But then they also can make a little bit more if they come and pick up the supplies on Monday before the election. Tuesday night after the election, 2 election judges have to return everything, 1 from each party in the same vehicle. So we pay a little bit more for the driver because we'll give them mileage since they're having to drive things back, but we give both of them then a little extra for that as well. And then if I have any election judges that offer to work in the nursing homes, because we finally got back into the nursing home this year. We hadn't been for the last couple of years, but they let us back in. So I had a couple of judges that went over and worked, and then they go over for about an hour and a half to 2 hours is what they're there, and they make $30 for going over and working there. So have little things that they can make more than that.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you and congratulations.
Thank you. Thanks, Julie.
Coroner, I do not see in the audience. Moving on to the health department. Amanda, are you on the phone?
Hi there, Ryan. Yes, I'm here. Hi, good evening. Can you hear me?
We can hear you, yes.
Excellent. Thank you. Okay to go ahead?
Yes, the floor is yours.
Great, thank you. So on board docs is the uploaded Board of Health monthly packet for the month of September. We conducted our board meeting on this past Monday. So just hit a few highlights on page 6 of our packet, which is our domain report. So we have our 12 public health domains that are part of our essential services, but also part of our public health accreditation process. Domain 1 is Monitor Health. That's on page 6. Our department continues to be pretty involved in monkeypox virus or MPV information to the community, information to our local area providers, and then also probable investigations. To date, we do not have any confirmed cases of MPV in Boone County, but we have been involved in several active investigations to date. We do have access to smallpox vaccine, which allows us to also prevent further spread of MPV if and when we do have a positive case. We are partnering with Crusader Clinic to work on vaccine distribution for MPV, as well as neighboring counties who already have confirmed cases, which include Winnebago County and DeKalb County at this time. I would also mention that if you look on page 8 under domain 4, which is mobilized community partnerships. Yesterday, the 31st of August was International Overdose Awareness Day. And the Boone County core team, which includes our core program supervisor, our core program navigator, our Rosecrans and Remedies staff members, our Crusader Clinic staff in the jail, and then our community law enforcement officer, Officer Schwartz, through the Belvedere Police Department and the Sheriff's Department. We're involved in Narcan training and a community awareness event that took place in the park right in front of the public safety building and the courthouse. So there were some successful activities that happened in honor of International Overdose Awareness Day, which was yesterday. Then I would also mention on page 9 under domain 6, which is enforce laws. Our department was very heavily involved in Boone County Fair activities. No news from our department is always good news. And our environmental center team did conduct a total of 78 inspections at the Boone County Fair. We were involved in 74 temporary stands, 1 mobile food truck, 3 fixed sites, and then all of the very large tractor trucks that are freezers that carry all of the frozen goods to the fair so that we can enjoy our corn dogs and our funnel cakes, etc. So we had a very busy but productive and uneventful week, which is how we like to keep that. Under domain 7, which is on page 10, I would just mention that the health department continues to provide COVID-19 vaccines Tuesdays and Fridays, and COVID-19 testing on Thursdays. In the month of September, we are pivoting to a Thursday evening clinic to make ourselves more accessible for families that may have a 9 to 5 work schedule during the work week. We are gearing up to administer the new bivalent, which means there are 2 strains of COVID-19 now available in the new booster dose that will be coming out here in the next handful of weeks. So we will be offering that to the general public. Prioritization will be published soon. We are waiting on additional guidance from the state health department. So we're gearing up most likely to offer large mass clinics again this fall in preparation for cold, flu, and COVID-19 season that will be soon upon us here for the fall months. And then the only other thing I wanted to mention on page 13 is that our department continues its journey towards public health accreditation. I believe I mentioned the last time that I gave a presentation that we will be the smallest health department in the state of Illinois to achieve national public health accreditation, which we're pretty excited and proud of. Currently, we are 83.44% of the way finished gathering up the 326 documents that have to be prepared and provided to the national accrediting body. And we will continue to provide these visual updates until such time as we are done and have uploaded all documents. Then the next step in the accreditation process is that 5 of our staff members receive detailed training, and then a site visit occurs at some point during calendar year 2023 where national staffers come to Boone County and meet with us, meet with our partners, go through our documents in person, spend about a week with us, grill us on a lot of things that we have been working on really for the last 5 years, and then determine whether we are prepared to be accredited or not. So that concludes my presentation, and I'd be happy to take any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Amanda. Anybody have any questions for Amanda? I see none. Thank you, Amanda.
Thank you.
Next up, Animal Services. Rick? All yours.
Evening.
Evening.
Rick.
Get started on numbers. I would just sort of tack on to what Julie was talking about with the fair. I also really enjoyed the time out there, and I think if the question comes up next year, should we do it again? I would say we should definitely do this again, year after year. As far as animal services out there, I don't know that we had a lot of people asking us questions. The assessor's office people seem to be the most busy. Of course, everybody wants to find out how to save on their property taxes. But like Julie said, it was good to be available, and I think the public appreciates the availability of all of us to serve them by vocation. So I think that's, it was a good opportunity to meet with people, and she said also us getting to know each other a little bit in ways that we don't necessarily get to do Monday through Friday. So on the business. So in the third quarter, animal services, general fund income was $68,800. Our non-personnel expenditures were $12,200. Our personnel expenditures were $31,800, netting us $35,700. And to date, we have a balance in the general fund of $31,500. The building fund took in $11,300, and we currently have a balance of $80,800 in that fund. The spay neuter fund took in $2,400. And we currently have just shy of $14,000 in that fund. And my favorite one, the donation fund. We took in $6,600 in the third quarter. We had a pretty hefty donation I'll get to here in a little while, but we currently have $44,000 in that fund. We impounded 73 dogs and returned 65 of them to their owners. So we had a really good return to owner percentage there, thankfully. And we sent out one to rescue. We have 2 of those dogs still with us, and they're both being adopted tomorrow.
Oh.
And before I get to some of the other animal stories, I will say this. If you hadn't heard, we did have a rabies positive bat here in Boone County last week, sort of going into the uptick for bats in houses here in the last few weeks, and it'll continue to be that way until the weather gets cold again. Rabies, it's a fatal disease, and we consider bats in houses one of the highest priority things that we do, and it is one of the things that we will do 24 hours a day. Regardless, it's one of those things you get up in the middle of the night and go to immediately because of the severe risk to the occupants of the house. So in this particular case, the bat was in the occupant's bedroom in the middle of the night, which is a huge risk to them. Person can be bit by a bat in their sleep and not know it. So anytime a bat is in the person's bedroom, it's going to get sent to the lab. And unfortunately, in this case, it did test positive, but the people were advised of that. We sent the bat out that morning after we collected it, got the results back the next morning. IDPH called us. So I knew it was I knew it was bad when they call you because you don't normally get a phone call. But anyway, so the residents were advised to seek medical care immediately, and they got the post-exposure treatment for the rabies virus, so they don't have to worry about that. But I just reiterate to the public, if you have a bat in your house, please do not mess with it. Myself and my officers are available 24 hours a day, 365 days a year to take care of it for you. The three of us have gotten rabies vaccinations just like your pets do. So if we get bit by it, it's not a big deal. Like if you get bit by it. So please call us at night, on the weekends, call the sheriff's department, non-emergency number. They can get a hold of us immediately and we will take care of it for you.
It's good to know. I got one in my house. I'll be calling you.
Give me a call and we'll take care of it.
We've got one in our church.
It really comes down to a question of whether it's something that we can reach or not, since you brought it up. I did go out to the River's Edge Park District facility, if you're familiar with it, the year before last, and they had a bat up on the ceiling, and they have vaulted ceilings in there. Normally, we wouldn't be able to take care of that, but they did happen to have a genie lift on the premise, and they didn't have to move it over there with the trailer or whatever, but they harnessed me to this thing, and I went up the genie lift and was able to recover that thing. In a facility like that, it's not a risk. The risk to people are inside their houses, primarily to them and their pets. In the business during the day, a person's going to know that they didn't have contact with the bat, but at night, you don't know that necessarily. You also don't know whether your cat got into a scrape with the bat either. So they're risks and they need to be dealt with. One thing we don't do with bats is get them out of your attics or out of your crawl spaces. If you have a bat problem in your attics, there are people out there that do take care of that professionally. And if you need help, I can provide you phone numbers for some of those people. So moving on to other things. So if you follow us on Facebook, you may be familiar with a dog that we had here with us for a few months. Her name is Blueberry. I'm sorry, I didn't bring any pictures this time, folks, but Blueberry had kind of a rough stay with us, unfortunately. She had wandered across the street to a garage sale back in May. And originally, the people that found her said that they wanted to come back and adopt her, but then somewhere along the way, they had changed their minds. And then she ended up being adopted by a couple from Chicago. And then those folks were getting a lot of negative pushback from other people in their apartment building. And so they brought her back after a couple of days. Kelly was there to meet them when they came back, and she said she had to pretty much pick up Blueberry and put her back in the kennel because she did not want to come back. But after seeing that, the gentleman who was at the garage, holding the garage sale, saw what had happened to her and did come back and adopt her. So she went to live with him on July 27th. Good things from him. So they're having a good time. Oddly for Blueberry, she now lives across the street and down about 2 or 3 houses from where she came from. So far, we haven't heard of any trouble with the old owner, so hopefully that won't be a problem. And donations, you guys have heard me talk about donations many times. Fortunately, I'm confident will continue to be discussed at length in the future as well. So the tremendous growth in the donations fund, which we use to fund veterinary care. We brought in $6,600 in the third quarter, and $6,100 of it was just in August. Kelly and I and a friend of Kelly's participated in a golf outing hosted by the Hideout Bar and Grill back on July 30th. The Hideout sponsored a 50-50 raffle with the proceeds benefiting animal services, and that raised $500. And then J&J Ventures Gaming, where the Hideout gets their gaming equipment from, started the event with a check for $5,000. So sort of a big day there, a $5,500 golf outing. We also had 2 young kids from the community who held a lemonade stand, and then they went to the store and bought a bunch of supplies and food and treats and stuff for the animals, and they were actually on the news along with myself back on August 9th. There were a couple of other young ladies who had donated their birthday money to the shelter, and that is something that we see frequently. Kids that are thinking of the shelter and of the animals that we have here. And of course, I like to talk about it to get the message out there that, it doesn't matter if you're 8 or 10 years old or a business person or, whatever your position is, you can do something. We all have an ability to do something, and I think that these kids are setting a good example for others. We have a number of other people that give recurring donations, and we had some of them that come in also. So, and again, just to reiterate this, I think it's important that people know where their donations are going to. You all know that nobody wants to donate their hard-earned money to pay ComEd. No one wants to do that, and I don't even think they want to pay our salaries, but they will pay for vet care, and they will pay for dog food and cat food and such like that. And it's one of the things that I love about this job. We get to talk about the support that we get from people. Reiterate what people are donating their money for. They're paying for surgeries. To go back to Blueberry, she had a type of cancer in her mammary glands that were discovered in sort of a routine vet visit, and she had gone under surgery an hour and a half later, and it cost a significant amount of money. Because of the generosity of our donors, we don't even have to think twice about how much money it's going to cost. The question is, Dr. Lenman, is what is the likelihood of a quality of life for the animal afterwards? And if he feels the dog has a good chance of a good quality of life, that's the decision. Money never has to be involved in that decision because of the generosity of our donors. That's all I have for now. If anyone has any questions, I'd love to hear them.
Brent?
Did anybody turn a lost iguana in? We did catch it. So. It's at the Marengo Pet Store. If anybody claims a lost iguana, my son caught it.
That is, I wanted to reiterate your thing on rabies is how dangerous it really is. I remember when we were in Iraq, if you pet a dog with rabies, you didn't need to be bit by anything. If you can contact and get rabies. And once you show symptoms, you're probably going to die from it. So you need to get tested for it immediately. It's almost 100% death rate in humans if you do not get treated for it. So yeah, I was just saying that. We appreciate everything you do. Another thing I wanted to hit on is the tent. It'd be maybe a great idea just to bring, obviously not all day, but some of the adoptable animals out there, just to kind of meet and greet and get around people. And that might even attract people in there to then ask questions about what's going on in the county. And then, I think that'd be fun. But some ideas for next year.
I appreciate the thought.
Sherry, did you have a question?
Yeah, I was just going to tell Rick, thank you for all the taking patience with a personal friend of mine this past month. I hope things have calmed down with this gentleman. But I appreciate what you and Kelly have done for him. Just a sad situation.
We're still there and we still have his application. He's still on our radar. You heard me say a few minutes ago, both of those dogs have been adopted out. They're going to be finalized tomorrow, but we'll have more of them.
Oh, yes.
You know what the gentleman's looking for.
Yes, I explained that to him over and over and over again.
Any other questions for Rick? Thank you.
Hope nobody takes offense, but I have a kid playing football now, so with that, good evening.
Good luck. Not easily offended. All right, moving along to written monthly departmental reports and updates. If anybody has anything to add. If not, we will move on to new business. Item 9.1, a motion to approve claims with the understanding that Carl Johnson abstains from voting on all claims presented by William Charles, Northern Illinois Service Company, and all claims presented from Core, Maine, and all claims submitted by the Boone County Highway Department. Bill Robertson abstains from voting on all claims presented by B. Robertson Lock Service.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made by Sherry Gieske, seconded by Dave Holtze. Roll call, please.
Carl Johnson, yes. Sherry Gieske.
Yes.
Dave Holtze.
Aye.
Ray Larson.
Aye.
Brent Mueller.
Aye.
Tom Curry.
Aye.
Tom Walberg.
Aye.
Melissa Patterson.
Aye.
Bill Robertson.
Aye.
Sherry Bartelt.
Aye.
Rodney Riley.
Yes.
Freddie Dale Trinidad.
Yes.
Motion carries.
9.2, growth dimensions. Kim? Evening.
Tonight, I'm just going to be sharing some information about Broadband for All. You've heard me talk in my monthly reports about the Accelerate Illinois program. This was a grant with no money attached for our collaborative. A few areas within Illinois were given basically expertise from the Benton Institute to provide us with guidance on information about data, planning, information that we would need in order to gain some resources, develop a plan to gain some resources, and to try to execute some solutions to address broadband in our community. So just to kind of give you an idea, the Accelerate Illinois partners were the Department of Commerce and Department of Commerce and Economic Opportunity, the Benton Institute. Our local leadership, Ogle County took the lead for our area. The Illinois Extension Office also provided that leadership. Partners were also included the Lee, Putnam, and Boone County. Myself, Adele Rose with the city of Belvedere, and we did have Kevin Catlin on there prior to his departure on our team, identified as our team. We had the reason why we worked with the community was because we wanted to. We had similar issues, similar challenges in our communities, in rural communities that maybe some larger cities, more populated areas aren't faced. But we indicated that if this was hurting businesses, this was hurting residents, this was hurting a lot of people that needed these services. And I don't think people realize, I know that with education, we know kids were, did some of that training from school, educators did some training from school, but also, healthcare providers, they needed to track maybe health concerns that somebody has. These days with technology, people are, monitored from home, their hearts, their brains, their activity. So these systems rely on, reliable internet. We also found that, keeping costs down is really difficult for providers. With the increase in demand, increase in costs, supplies, connectivity, and capacity, it's really difficult for them to keep up to speed with the technology of today. So I think the providers face a lot of challenges, and I know we can hear from Comcast quite a bit, and they'll say the same thing. And then we've had just an increase on reliance. So in order to have a dependable system, it's critical for everybody. Next slide, please. So we did create a vision and we had some key objectives. We wanted to make sure this is affordable to everybody. And again, reliable, dependable, state of the art. So we focused on identifying the networks in our region. And believe it or not, we have actually 20 in Boone County, 20 providers in our area. Identify underserved areas. So where are those gaps happening? And we did some surveying, and I'll get more into that. We also wanted to identify funding opportunities, both on the public and private sector, and also some of those issues that we might have with the infrastructure. I know in Belvedere, they said we don't want any more, wires in the ground because we're just at capacity. But in other areas, they don't have anything. So we need to find out exactly where those issues lie. So one of the things that we had some goals is to create those, basically to create a technology, excuse me, I can't even say it today, advanced broadband network. Again, being affordable and accessible and adaptable and reliable. We want to leverage some of those partnerships across our region and to provide services that are inclusive. And to make sure it's scalable. Now you have to remember that some of these solutions, that we find might not be adaptable to the entire county. We find there's certain cities that focus on broadband for their specific location, and it's not connected to a countywide solution. So we have to find out that what best suits us. Next slide, please. So we did a survey, and I did put a copy of what we put out. We went to the fair, we, handed them out there. We have the school systems partners, the Chamber of Commerce, Growth Dimensions, put it in newsletters. We literally went to registrations and handed them out to everybody. We tried to get as many people to sign up or fill out these surveys. We only had 100 complete surveys. People needed to fill it out where they lived and where they worked, or where they worked in Boone County. We did get a wide variety of, of information, but we got a lot of, basically comments that really kind of justify or added to our reasons why we need to focus on broadband for our community. Again, and I'm not going to read every single one of them, but basically these are the two that we picked out for Boone County, talking about the options, the choices that they might have, or the lack of choices that they might have, and you have to utilize their service. I know there's sometimes I'm in the office and I have to access my cellular service. So next slide, please. Some of the key findings was the test speeds. So out of the total, we received 803 responses. And shown there is the download and upload speeds for both Boone County and overall for all the region. Now ours look a little high, quite honestly. But if you look at the range, it really shows you the vast difference depending on where they are. So I share with you on the bottom, Illinois' broadband strategic plan. They said by 2028, Illinois homes, businesses, and community anchor institutions throughout the state will have access to at least one provider offering 100 over 20 Mbps services. That's upload and download speeds. Download and upload speeds. So most of the providers in our region our people in our region have been serviced by Comcast, followed by, I think it's Frontier, and then there's other providers. But I don't think that we have enough data in front of us. We're trying to gather more, and I'll get more into that. But we, if you go on to the next page, we also have some key comments from other areas. Again, very similar. It's not reliable. It depends on the weather. It's too costly. to get it to my area. Difficult when so many people are on there or when nobody's on there, sometimes late at night. Next slide, please. Again, more comments. These are primarily from our other areas, other counties. Even go to the summary. So most, just in general terms, as a summary, most have issues with availability, again, lack of choice or no choice at all. They have difficulty with delivery of services. They're unreliable or underserved areas. It's too expensive. And then I added this afternoon because with 20 providers in Boone County, sustainable partnerships, as you mentioned, there's programs out there. And we don't know if these partners are going to be around tomorrow, going to be around 5 years from now. How long? So we need to look into implementing long-term solutions. Next slide, please. So what we're trying to do is develop a detailed plan for potential solutions, identify where our targeted areas are, where is our gaps of service. Even people are like, well, around the city, we're going to have the best service. Well, we hear so many challenges from businesses and individuals within the city limits. We want to continue our data collection. So we don't have a lot of data. We kind of get an idea of where the problem are, that there are problems, but we need to know specifically where those problems, what those problems are, and where they lie. So on the northern side of our county or the southern side, they may have different issues than within the middle. So we want to be very specific about where our issues lie. We want to expand our local engagement to create community support, leadership, and direction. The two of us provided as much representation in our area, but quite honestly, we're not the experts at this particular field, and we acknowledge that. And the more information that we gain, the more we realize that we don't know, and we need to rely on experts in our systems. We need to hear from building departments. We need to talk to the county and the cities that are responsible for infrastructure. There's so many partners that need to be part of the solutions, part of this plan. We need to evaluate what models exist and which best suits Boone County. And again, for cost-effective and sustainable solutions. And then we have to look into funding options. There's so much money right now available at a local, state, and federal level that can be utilized for this. So we should really, take those all into account right now. But we're not going to be eligible to receive those dollars, or it wouldn't be a really good plan unless we have a really good solution, unless we have a really good plan. So we need to lay that out. And in Boone County, as far as I know, we really haven't had a county-wide plan for broadband. And so we are working with the county. Growth Dimensions is submitting go to the next slide. We're going to be, we developed a resolution. Dan has some examples that really focus on some key things that we wanted to make sure that we're moving forward, that we're committed to doing, providing that broadband for all. Available for any questions. I'm sorry, I know you have a long night ahead of you, so I just wanted to be as quick as possible.
Chair Gieseke?
I don't think I have a question, Pam. I think I have an opinion that it looks to me like this is a very complicated issue when you start out by saying there's 20 networks in our area. Well, we're only this big. So you would like to think that it's not that much of an issue. Only 100 responses. There were 219,000 people at the fair. So is there ambivalence out there? And I guess and then you also, I think, have to factor into, some of us choose to live in a rural area. So we can't have the same sort of access that if you lived in downtown Chicago. And so the only suggestion I have is I would suggest talk to people like Brent Mueller. What does he get? Talk to some of us that are out in the rural areas, but rather than just going to the towns or these agencies, I think you need to just grab a few people and ask, How are they, what's their access like?
Actually, we had a couple ladies that reached out to us, and they're in the rural community for the North Boone.
Probably my
And
neighbors.
could be. They're actually, one of them utilized a service from Wisconsin. They came in from Wisconsin.
That's me. That wasn't the person.
And then they moved and they were no longer in that area. And they're frustrated, very frustrated, because now they got a service. I mean, you can go to the conservation area and take your dogs for a walk, and I do this all the time. And what happens if I hurt myself or something happens? I don't have any way to contact anybody.
You send the dog.
That's an idea. So, I mean, these are critical. These are critical issues that, we all face. And I think that people don't realize it's a problem until it affects them, or until they start thinking about this, until you're in a situation that it might affect them, or affect somebody that you care about. So I think, maybe that's for the low participation.
Yeah, could be.
Sherry?
Pam, when you said you need more data, have you sent something out to the public asking for this?
Yes, we sent it out through Forward Boone, our site. We have actually had media attention. We did a press release. We did some interviews. We've done as much as we can for trying to get some information. We worked with the school districts, send it out for parents, ask them to put it on their website. Again, we've done this for businesses as well.
Yeah, I know of several people that are working from home that are actually doing government jobs that keep losing the internet out there. And I have never heard of this before. And that's why I'm asking where, when, how, why, and if it's not available to everyone, what can we do?
Well, somebody suggested go door to door, that, is that from the county? And I was like, well, okay, we got 3 staff. And, it's a little challenging. But, we would, this week asked them to keep the survey open so we can continue to gather the data.
Survey it.
Actually, we have a link on here, and you can actually use this QSP code. And we have a link on the bottom down here. So we can have this available for, there's multiple ways that they can take it. We also have paper copies that we were handing out. So if people, can't do that, maybe they can fill out the paper copy but the thing is, we won't get the upload download speeds. That's the only problem. So it would be an income.
Most of the people I'm talking about are up in the Caledonia, Argyle, and that area where there is just
It's horrible. Yes.
nothing.
Yeah, so I mean, we would appreciate your help, support. We'd be glad to distribute it. Talked about elections coming up. I think that's a prime opportunity to put some material out if possible. We would just continuing to try to get this out there, this information. But thank you.
What do you do, Trinidad?
I just wanted to add, I know just with talking to people, that have internet and stuff like that, there is a cost issue. A lot of times, it is expensive and it's becoming a necessity now. Everybody uses the internet now, people in rural areas for jobs or whatever. So I think we definitely need to look at, servicing, everybody here in the county, just because everybody uses it now. It's becoming a necessity. People, even me, I don't even watch TV anymore. It's all internet or whatever. So.
Well, even farming equipment, I mean, they have become more technology advanced. And so they're relying on your internet. Also, they have to keep track of the weather conditions. They could be out in the field and something can turn and they'll be in danger. So all these things are critical.
Yeah, golf courses as well.
Yes. Want to be not holding a golf club during that period of time.
Priorities.
Yes.
Any other questions? Comments? Concerns?
Thanks, Pam.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. All right. We are moving on to 9.3. I'd like a motion to approve bid from B&K Concrete for the replacement of the courthouse lower parking lot steps in an amount not to exceed $22,266.75. Motion made by seconded by Bill Robertson. All those in favor, or actually, I'm sorry, discussion? Go ahead, Dave.
I would like to amend that, unless it's already in here, I'm looking at the memo, to add that second railing, which is $3,700. The other price was $2,000. Is that in the final number?
Yes.
Thank you.
Any other comments? That being said, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Roll call for Mike.
This just moves it to the full county board.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Item 9.4, I need a motion to approve intergovernmental agreement between County of Boone and the Village of Poplar Grove for e-citation court fees forward to the county board for approval.
So moved. Second.
Motion made by Sherry Giesky, seconded by Dave Wiltsey. Discussion.
I was just gonna say, this is, an issue that I brought up to the board. This is just to be in compliance with statutes and with the auditor. It's a very minimal amount of money. If you read the memo, $6 this year. And there's been no money prior to this year. Money needs to go somewhere for the audit, so it's not just there with no designation. And the Village of Poplar Grove cannot accept it because they don't have an e-citation system. They use the Sheriff's Department to patrol that area, so it seemed logical to award those e-citations to the Sheriff's Department that does have the e-citation system. So if anyone has any questions.
Any questions?
Thank you.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. We are moving on to 9.5. We need a motion to move Ogdenville and Kish 2 solar special use permit renewal forward to Boone County Board for approval.
So moved.
Motion made by Dave Wiltsey,
Second.
seconded by Sherry Giesky. Discussion? Izzy?
Yes. So I wanted to give a quick overview and a little bit of historical details for this, and then I want you to hear from Ryan McQuigg, who's here from Cypress Creek. So we are talking about two special use permits that are active and approved right now, and that's Kish 2, which is located along Wheeler Road, adjacent to Kish 1, which is part of this project as well. And the second project is Ogdenville, which is located along Garden Prairie, and this site is actually zoned light industrial, as you can see up on the map. All right. Oops. Oh. Sorry about that. Awesome. Thank you. All right. So again, these two projects are approved special use permits. So if you're not familiar, solar projects do have to go through the special use process, which require a public hearing and review by various boards and commissions. And in the conditions, they are given 2 years to be operational. And of course, with solar projects, what we've been hearing and the feedback we've gotten from developers is that it is a longer process. We do have like 5 pages of conditions, reports that they need to do, reports that they need to wait on, agencies that they have to work with. So that just prolongs the process. And that is why, and along with any other special use, extensions are available if approved by the county board for 1 year. So if you recall, Cypress Creek came to us in February and they did receive an extension for 1 year. And so right now they are requesting a last extension, which will begin, of course, February 2023 to February 2024. So again, Ryan McQuigg is here and he's going to explain everything, why the process is taking so long. You also should have letters in front of you, which kind of go through everything like this, but I'm going to pass it on to him now. So you can continue. Dan, will you be able to use this? Cypress Creek presentation?
Oh, perfect.
Good evening. Thank you, Chairman and the committee for having us tonight. Us being myself, Ryan McQuigg with Cypress Creek, and counsel for the project, Mr. Jacoby behind me. Izzy's a lovely introduction to the projects, Fish 2 Solar and Ogdenville Solar. These should be familiar to a lot of you, if not most of you. These, as Izzy alluded to, have received special use permits in the past, and with delays from the IPA and the adjustable block program over the years, we weren't originally selected with the random lottery selection for projects. And then the program went on hold essentially for several years. And so now with a REC agreement in place as of earlier this year, we are ready to hit the ground running and finally construct these things. So I know it's been a long time coming, but we're really excited to be here tonight and put this thing finally in the ground. So again, just a kind of overview of where we're at currently. We, again, as Izzy mentioned, we had a 1-year extension approved back in February. And the way that reads is it expires in February of 2023. And these are intended to be 2-year projects. And so in order to provide assurance to hit full operational status, by the end of our construction timeline, it exceeds that February date, doing everything we possibly can do. So in order at this stage to get a financial assurance and all parties involved to procure all the equipment and to break ground, we need assurance from the county to ensure that our permit will be valid through construction. Again, just touching on these projects for those who are not familiar. The first one is Kish 2. This is in Flora Township along Wheeler Road. Pretty standard. These are 2 megawatt projects. They're approximately 25 acres on existing agricultural land. Community solar, for those who are not familiar, this is a direct benefit to the community. Folks can actually subscribe to these projects and take money off of their ComEd bill throughout the life of the project. And then ultimately, once the project cycle is finished, these projects have a life of about 20 years originally. It would be decommissioned and then turned back into agricultural at that time. And just generally in the bottom and the left-hand side, the site plan is the exact same. We still have one access point along Wheeler Road with extremely limited traffic just for operations and maintenance purposes. There's a vegetative screening along the northeast corner. That's going to be heavy evergreens. We still meeting all of the previously approved staff county conditions of those approvals in the past and extensions, and then we're adhering to AMA requirements, which is by state law. And the second project, Ogdenville Solar, again, 2 megawatts, so approximately 25 acres in size. This one is in Garden Prairie Township along Garden Prairie Road, just north of US 20. This parcel is actually zoned industrial, which allows for a wide variety of uses. We feel like this is a really good for this project. It's really low impact. And again, going to eventually be restoring that agricultural use in the future. So the reason for, I guess, us today over the years and the history of this project, what I alluded to with just the delays of the program, kind of walks you through here. So December 2018, originally we had our special use permit approved, and then the Illinois Power Agency essentially put the whole program on hold for those that originally weren't randomly selected in the state. So when we extended our special use permits over those periods, just in hopes that it reopened, which it finally did, we now have a REC agreement in place as of earlier this year to hit the ground running. And substantially, we have been working our tail off to make this happen since our last approval. So this is just a short list of all the many items that we have done to date to get us through preliminary engineering and finally kick off building permit documents. So updated ALTA, topographic survey, drain tile surveys, numerous environmental studies and reports, meeting state requirements, that's SHPO, that's IDNR, all wetland jurisdictional determinations completed. We have paid our interconnection agreement with ComEd, which is a substantial amount of money that puts forth to essentially upgrade those lines to put power back onto the grid. So ComEd has started their work already to hit our deadline. And then we brought on a equity partner, Nexamp Solar, which they have a wealth of experience in Northern Illinois constructing these things. So we have assembled the best team possible for these projects. They're our two top priority projects to make happen. And we're really excited. So as you can see at the very bottom there, September 22, work for final building permit package, procuring construction materials and project equipment. And that's where we're at today. Just quickly touching on our planned construction schedule. So going forward, we're planning to have these projects in operation by October 2023. Obviously, it's development, things happen, but that's where we're at realistically, starting or breaking ground spring of this coming year. And then just an overview just of these two projects for the benefit of the county. So again, these are with ComEd and Community Solar, like I said. They service approximately 300 to 400 homes per project. It's a direct investment of approximately $4 million per project, hiring local labor of approximately 20 folks per project. And then it's a really substantial increase in property tax contributions for the county over the lifetime of the projects that's paid by the developer. So a lot of money going back to the county and a really great benefit for folks here in the community. And I believe that's it for me at this time, if folks have any questions.
All right, right. Going back a couple slides, I didn't see anything in there. If you guys, on the development progress, I didn't see anything in there on straight voltage. If you provide extra power from the solar panels, where that extra power goes, who does that surveys?
You're saying in relation.
So let's say you have you're set up to do 2 megawatts, and let's say you do 2.1 megawatts, but who takes that extra wattage and your grounding? Where does your grounding go, and where does it follow back to? So your power is supplied to the system.
Yeah, so it's actually all power limited through the inverter. So we're only allocated to put on that amount of energy onto the grid.
So if your inverter, you're producing more power during a day, that inverter, where's that inverter dump that extra power to?
It doesn't go back onto the grid. I'm not an electrical engineer, so I can't speak to the specifics, but yeah, it doesn't overload the grid. That's all designed.
I know, but if it doesn't you're producing it.
So you put it in the ground.
So you put it in the ground. So that affects livestock.
Yep.
Again, I'm not an expert on the matter, but I'm happy to follow up with you on that.
I'm just asking. I want to know where that surveyor, that the details were. So
sure.
Sherry Gieseke?
Well, maybe that's something you should look into. Because you're in the middle of the rural country or rural area with not lots of livestock, but more than you're going to find elsewhere, because it is an issue.
I've been doing this for many years and haven't ran into that as a problem in the past. But certainly will look into that.
Carl Johnson?
You state in your letter that one of the reasons is with the deadline is trying to meet that deadline is due to interconnection construction with ComEd and their schedules. If ComEd were able to be up and ready before the end of this project, would the project need the extension, or is ComEd pretty much the reason for the need for the extension?
ComEd isn't the direct and only reason for the extension. There's just a party to many other things. They have procured all their equipment. We've paid all the upfront fee for that work, but they're tracking to have their upgrades completed by the end of the year, along with our project. So that's how they're tracking their project schedule.
The end of 2023. But if they could have their portion done by the end of 2022, which I don't remember when this is, I think it's the end of 2022 or February 2023. If they could have it done by then, would you be ready?
If we knew that 7 months ago, absolutely. We're just kind of held to several variables here, right? ComEd's doing everything they can, and those are the dates they can hit. And then on our side, we need the assurance and final design completed still in order to make this happen. So we're both tangentially in path, and that's what we've laid out here. Again, we wish we could have gotten a rec agreement earlier to hit the ground running, but this 2-year window, we're in the middle of, and realistically, the end of 2023 is when this is finally going to come together. Does that answer your question?
Semi, sort of, but not completely. Okay.
Mr. Wahlberg? Okay, so a couple of questions. Your intention is to sell this project to Nexamp?
Correct. Nexamp will own this project, but it's a partnership where Cypress Creek will actually maintain the project.
You need this extension to sell the property, excuse me.
Nexamp's already on board. It's the many involved parties through financial assurance, through kicking off final engineering, through procuring materials. As you know, supply chain issues can take some time.
Has your company done any construction of solar projects?
Yeah, we own and operate over 3 gigawatts of projects throughout the country. We're one of the more reputable companies, along with Nexamp, in the country doing community solar work.
And just a correction to one of your comments, there is no Garden Prairie Township in Boone County. It's Bonus Township, the project's located at for Garden Prairie.
Oh, my apologies. Thank you.
Any other questions, comments, concerns? Mr. Riley?
Just real quick, and I apologize if I might have missed something here. I was busy looking back at last February's minutes, trying to refresh my opinion on all this. The Flora Township property is all farming ground now. It's got crops in it, that whole thing. The one in Garden Prairie, you said, is light industrial. How much of that is tillable land?
That existing property is currently farmed.
It is farmed.
But it is zoned or industrial.
Okay, all right. I apologize. Thank you.
Any other questions, Mr. Chairman?
Just a statement. I'll support this extension, but I think this would be the last time I'd support it for this, because we get in this situation with these special uses where they don't go, come back, they don't go, they come back, they don't. At some point, we say, look, either it's going to go or it's not going to go. It's been approved. Put it up and get it going. So I would approve this. I personally will vote in favor of the 1-year extension. That'll be it on it.
Understood.
Mr. Wiltsey?
I also will be supporting this, and this is not the first time we've had this litany laid out for us that the people that didn't win the first lottery basically lost a couple of years. And if you looked at that timetable this year, almost every month they did at least 3 things. It was an exception. 1 month, I think they did 4 things. Once they got the lottery, past the lottery problem, and they were given the green light to go, I think they've gone as fast as they can go. I would agree with the chairman. I wouldn't support a 2024 extension, but I think this is the right extension at the right time, and this will finally make this project go.
Sherry?
While I understand what everybody's saying, I think we all need to realize that if you had to try and order a part to get something fixed in your home or an appliance or your car or you name it, you're going to run into all sorts of craziness. Get them, they could be wrong. So while I'm not trying to suck up, but this is the world we live in now. So under normal circumstances, I might be siding with, okay, you get one more chance and that's it. But this is a crazy world we live in now.
Brent?
I will not be approving this because I wasn't here in February. You're 2 megawatts. There's a nuclear power plant in Seneca that provides 2,700 megawatts. And you guys are gonna do 2 megawatts on 25 acres. So it's gonna take you over almost 6,000 acres to replace what one nuclear plant is doing. I don't see that viable in Illinois. So, and with not having any paperwork done on straight current coming off of these panels, I can't put my family or my farm or other farms in my district that have livestock to approve this. So that's all I have to say.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments?
Will we be approving these as unity or separate individual for 2 projects?
I suppose.
Motion was for both at the time, but you could separate, yes.
I believe the original were for both, correct?
I'm sorry.
I believe the original was for both.
The original motion was for both of them, yes.
Dave Wiltsey.
Real quick, and I appreciate your comment about the nuclear plants, but the General Assembly last year barely approved 5 more years. I think it was for Byron. The General Assembly is on a mission with, it seems, with Commonwealth Edison to take our nuclear down. And I don't understand it. I don't understand where this electric thing's going. 61% of our electricity is generated in 2021 nationally by fossil fuels. We've got to be careful about what we're doing here. And I would prefer nuclear to keep going at levels it could. They would only allow the plant to buy retrofitting for rods and new equipment for 5 years. So I think we've got to look at all of the things that are coming before us. And in this particular case, since it's something that was approved, I don't see a affirmative reason to say no. That's just my opinion, Brent.
So I'll give you, so when, let's see here, Cypress Creek sells this to the next company, they've already collected your grants, subsidies, and they can lower their operating costs down to 1-2 cents kilowatt hour. They go to the open market, sell it for that. A nuclear plant, the cheapest and best one is LaSalle. They operate at a 2 to 2.5 cent per kilowatt hour. Most of them are in that 10 cent. So they cannot compete in the open market for these that we've already paid tax money on to subsidize the power being generated by a solar or a wind. So we're already double dipping on this. So that's why I'm new to the board and I'm not gonna let this down. I will fight this tooth and nail.
Okay, I understand. Thank you.
Sure.
I think it's important to note that, that Japan is actually bringing back nuclear. They've learned things from their disaster, and so they are now pushing to bring back nuclear. Just a point of interest, I thought.
Any other questions or comments, concerns prior to us voting? Seeing none, I believe, I'm sorry, Sherry?
I'm going to say one thing to this board because I used to work for Chrysler Corporation. The plant will be going down for anywhere from 4 to 6 weeks coming up, right around Christmas. After that, there's nothing scheduled for this plant. So every vote that we do on this and against this is taking away tax money from the people of Boone County. I want you to think about that. Because if anything happens at Chrysler, you tell me how you're going to make up $4 or $5 million, $3 to $4 million in tax money off of that building out there. When you keep turning down wind and solar, as you have had in the past, you tell the people of Boone County why you turned it down. I'm not going to tell them.
Put a nuclear plant there.
Do you want to live next to one?
We do.
Really?
Iron.
fine. We could probably make arrangements for one to be put right over in your property. It can be done by eminent domain.
Any other questions or comments? Mr. Riley?
Just real quick, and I know I'm not gonna, probably won't be the most popular person in the room, but bottom line, I came.
Never are, Rodney.
Sorry?
Joking.
Sorry. I came from a farm. I've been away from the farm for 35 years. I'm going to be supporting the farmers in this community. I'm sorry. I don't know the long range, what these things can do to the farm ground. I don't know how viable it'll be when it goes back to being farm ground. I might be 100% wrong, but that's how I voted in February, and that's how I'm going to vote tonight.
Questions, comments, Freddie De La Trinidad?
Okay, so I heard something interesting that solar farms affect livestock. I'm open to anything, but I've never heard that before. Is there a data to back that up or?
So Freddie, the stray voltage that gets generated from the utility companies, it gets distributed into the ground and it goes back to the point of production. So like a lot of our power comes from the nuclear plant. So when they run the power lines out, there's ground wires that come down. Every third to fourth telephone pole, there's a ground wire off their neutral. That neutral should go back to the utility company, but they use the ground as a buffering zone. So like when you turn on your light, you got power instantly. Then you'll have a spike and then it teeters or it tails off. So when it starts tailing off, that's where the extra current has to go back to the source to generate, because you have to have positive and neutral to equal out to zero. Well, if there's so many positives and your neutral line can only take so much, that goes to earth. So when you have extra generating power, you'll have a big spike and then it drops down. Well, that drop down, that difference, it goes to the earth or goes back to the generating source. So when you have livestock in a confined area or out in a pasture, they will be deterred from the ground currents. So the ground currents, a cow is extremely sensitive. On our herd, with my personal observations, they will be affected up to a half a millivolt. It takes 1,000 millivolts to equal 1 volt. So that's how sensitive a cow is to stray voltage. And if you've ever touched an electric fence, a cow will never touch electric. If they know right, they will never touch electric fence once they've been shocked once. And that's only 25 volts. So if you have enough electricity, you can kill a cow or you deter a cow from drinking water. And that's what happened on our farm and other people I know in the state of Wisconsin and Western Illinois. The cows get deterred from drinking water. And if you don't have enough water consumption in a cow, it relates to health issues. That health issues relates to metabolic problems. Those metabolic problems equal death. So that's how my personal opinion and experience, plus I could bring in at least 4 other dairy farms in northern Illinois or southern Wisconsin have dealt with it in the past.
Thank you.
Okay, roll call?
Well, this just sends us to the county board for vote. So we can do a voice vote, or if it seems close enough, we can do a roll call. It doesn't matter. Or we can do a roll call now, whatever you'd like to do, sir.
Roll call? I think roll call, yeah.
Okay. Carl Johnson, yes. Sherry Geeske.
No.
Dave Wiltsey.
Aye.
Ray Larson.
No.
Brent Mueller.
No.
Brian Curry.
No.
Tom Wahlberg.
No.
Elisa Patterson.
Nope.
Bill Robertson.
Yes.
Sherry Bartel.
Yes.
Rodney Riley.
No.
Freddie De La Trinidad.
Yes.
Motion fails. So it does not go to the county board.
Moving on to 9.6. Need a motion to move M 1A-29-2022 Ferry Map Amendment forward to the county board for approval. Motion made by Sherry Gieske.
Second.
Seconded by Ray Larson. Discussion? Izzy?
Thank you. Okay. I'm not clicking, Dan. Can you click one forward? Oh, sorry. No, it's not that one. It's mine. Sorry. You were on the right one. Yep. Thank you. All right. So this site is located north of Wyman School Road. It is currently open ag wooded area. There are some ag structures on the property located in California Township. It's approximately 13 acres, and the site is zoned A1 Agricultural Preservation District. The applicant is seeking a map amendment, which would be a rezoning of approximately 5 acres to build a home. As you can see from the site plan that was provided, there are some wooded areas which will remain unchanged, as well as some tillable acreage towards Wyman School Road that will also be remaining the same. So if you recall, the Lot of Record Ad Hoc Committee did a lot of work in updating and amending section 3.3.3. So we took a couple of months, we looked at our existing ordinance, and that section is specifically to rezone to A2, which is the agricultural residential district. So throughout that time, we looked that the current zoning ordinance was really restrictive and did not allow for anybody really to even begin an application. So what happened during our meetings is we looked at the conditions and we updated the section. So we still looked at agricultural land that had quote unquote problems on them. So issues that wouldn't allow for traditional farming to go on. So we ended up requiring one of 3 things to be true in order for an application to be submitted. So one, there has to be a topography issue. So there has to be a slope. Any existing physical features which serve as a barrier to farm operations, so wetlands or rock outcropping. And finally, a tree cover. A parcel has to be over 50% of naturally wooded area. So as you can see here, Mr. Ferry included documents and photos of over 50% of his parcel, which is covered in wooded area. So he meets that requirement, so he was able to apply. There are a set of other conditions that he also must meet, and some of these are approved right now, and some will be approved once he gets permits for building the home. So he did provide a site plan, as you saw from the documents he provided, showing where the home he's proposing to build, what parts of that parcel will remain unchanged, as we just went through. Some of the other ones that were reviewed during our agency review were from the county engineer. There were no concerns from him in regards to ingress and egress on Wyman School Road. The property has to be water wells. Mr. Ferry did include some information on that, but of course the final approval will come from the health department once he's ready to get those permits to build the home, as well as the septic suitability. Again, we did have agency reviews and there were no other concerns. Building and zoning did note that if approved, a building permit would be required. Boone County Soil and Water Conservation District did do an NRI on the 5 acres that he's planning to rezone, and they gave a favorable recommendation for the rezoning. The findings of fact are also a little bit different. We haven't seen a map amendment findings of fact in a while, but again, they're different from the special use ones. So first is, well, what are the existing uses of the properties within the general area? So when I looked at the general area, it's all agricultural and residential. So the use of the properties that are surrounding this site in question would be compatible with the change in zoning, as again, the change in zoning would really use the same things that are there now, agricultural and residences. Again, when we looked at the Lot of Record Ad Hoc Committee, A2, which is the agricultural residential district, was essentially a subcategory of A1, which is our agricultural preservation district. It just took those parts that maybe weren't prime ag land and would allow them that one home. If you remember, in order to build a single family home in A1, the parcel has to be original to 1978. So if in this case, the parcel was changed after 1978, therefore it would not be permitted to build a home. However, because of these problem areas on the parcel, Mr. Ferry is allowed to apply for the rezoning. Second finding of fact is what are the zoning classifications within the general area? So when I looked at the general area, it's all A1 agricultural preservation district. So again, that amendment being a subcategory of our A1 would be in line and would actually be compatible with the adjacent zoning district and uses. So if you see from the map, hopefully you can see a little bit of the yellow, but the site is right here, Mr. Ferry's site right here. And then the rest is all A1 and all the stars are residences. So again, it would be right in line with keeping the preservation of the property, but then being allowed single family home, just like the other property. So again, would be compatible with the general area. The third finding, what is the suitability of the use in question for the current zoning district? So as I mentioned, single family homes are only permitted in A1 if the site is original to 1978. We put that in our code now, so if there are any changes to the site, it is no longer buildable. So when we look at A2, which is essentially a subcategory, a lot of record ad hoc committee reviewed both of the zoning districts and they're the same. The only difference is that one, there has to be a problem area on the parcel, and then it would permit one single family home. So it would still, the rezoning would allow not only for it to still be agricultural, but then would allow that single family home. What's a trend of development in the general area? The general development, if you saw from the previous slide, is a mix of agricultural and residential. Therefore, there would be no substantial change to the area. What does a comprehensive plan say? So the comprehensive plan is a little bit different. It does show the future intended use as greenways, which is typically given to conservation areas and wetlands. This is only a little corner of like wetland, I believe. There's a lot of wooded area, which as you saw will remain unchanged. So essentially the comprehensive plan may need a little tweaking. The rest of the area is agricultural, but it still would be in line with the comprehensive plan. The Zoning Board of Appeals did have a hearing Tuesday, August 30th. We did have a neighbor come out and give support for the rezoning. There were no other concerns from the Zoning Board of Appeals. The Zoning Board did review the findings of fact and accepted them 4-0, and then they did vote in favor of the rezoning 4-0. Staff is recommending the committee also vote in favor and move it forward to County Board for final approval to rezone parcel A from A1 to A2, or that section. Again, we're talking about approximately 5 acres. Section 3.3.3 in that sense didn't change, which would allow still from 2 to 5 acres to be rezoned. Mr. Ferry is here and he has some more background information. He did provide that in his application, but perhaps you'd like to hear from him at this time.
Sure, Mr. Ferry, would you like to?
Good evening.
Good evening.
So Izzy asked me to talk to you because I believe I'm the first applicant under the new rules.
Yes, I'm very excited.
Thanks. Okay. Okay. A little oversized. I have a presentation here. I think it goes through a lot about what I heard during the ad hoc committee meetings and the goals there and how I hopefully align with the goals laid out. Settings here are going.
Display settings. In the display settings.
There you go.
Perfect. All right. So as is stated, I'm looking to basically divide this parcel into 2 different lots, one A1 and one A2, and put a single family home into the A2 region. So other than that, really looking to minimize the impact of the farmland. We come from a farming family. So I wanted to talk a little bit about farm history. South of Wymanskill Road in the kind of pink area there, my family and grandparents purchased that in 1929. And in 1988, the farm above us became available. So we purchased the 2 lots. You can see there and there. The home that was originally attached to those was sold off to a different family. So that's not part of our parcel today, but it remains an active farmland today. Last year, I took sole possession of that for the purpose of thinking I had to build a house, and the rest of all the land is owned by an LLC with my sister and I. And I bring that to your attention because this creates the classic problem of 2 siblings with 1 house. Both of us want to live there, so hence the need for a new house. So this is a lot, 13.8 acres, and my kind of preliminary proposal is to create an A2 zone, which would have a narrow driveway coming up along the fence line, and then take over the wooded area, and I have a nice convenient grassy area to build a house, and the existing farm buildings and agricultural farmland would remain in an A1 zone. So as you went over the site plan already, so I won't spend too much time there, just point out that we have existing road access already, so all I'd really do is have to extend a driveway up and estimate that would be about 1/3 of an acre of lost agriculture due to the driveway, but nothing else would change on that. We'd continue to farm that land. It is a historically wooded area. I was able to find a photo from 1941. You can see many of the trees there that have continued to grow and just gotten bigger in that time. And I think I meet all the rules about having sufficient canopy cover under the current rules to look at rezoning, and it's obviously an impediment to agriculture as it stands. There's some proof of the trees. The pictures don't really do them justice, but they were big in 1941. They've continued to grow. So, some of the requirements about road access, we've already heard that there's no concerns about that because you can see for a considerable distance looking east or west. My last slide is about the wells, and I can say that I know of no wells, and I did some sleuthing this summer about how the barn originally had some water, and all indications are that it came from the house that was originally located in this corner. It's since been torn down and moved down, and there's even a windmill there, so even pre-electricity, I think I have the story of where the water came from. So that was my last slide. I'd just like to close by saying I first talked to Izzy 3 years ago about, hey, how can I build a house on this land, and there was really no way forward. So I'm glad the rule amendments were made, and I'm hoping to build a house. Any questions?
Any questions? Sherry?
Just because I was lazy, is this our classic example that we always went back to? That map, I was too lazy to go back and look, but boy, I remember that outline. Woods up here, remember that?
Dave Wiltsey.
Yes, so I'm glad to see this is the first time that we've had someone under the new revisions to the ordinance. And I want to again draw your attention to my favorite section 7, which references with some description what was going to be done on the property, and they're still going to maintain 5 acres under tillage, and just put the farm on, or the house on the other 5. So I'll be supporting this project.
Any other questions, comments? Oh, Mr. Mueller.
It's awesome because we did the same thing kind of on our property, but before all this stuff was through. If you do anything with the oak trees, don't build a pond. I had an uncle that built a pond, and he's been killing a lot of the oak trees. Yeah. But this is down in Amboy area, so just FYI.
Good to know, because the 5-year plan called for a little pond back in southern grassy area, but maybe I'll hold off on that.
Just watch when you do it so you don't raise the water level or something like that, because oak trees don't like extra water or ground disturbance. Just so you know.
Good to know. Thanks.
Any other questions, comments? Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Does it have to have a motion to go forward, or?
It's already had a motion to go forward.
I'm sorry.
We just need to vote on it now. Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye. Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Back on track here. Item 9.7, I don't know why computers went so slow.
Just discussion.
Okay, zoning ordinance violation remediation discussion, and Tricia is.
Just waited to make batteries die. So this is just a discussion item tonight. There's not going to be any voting on it, but I wanted to make the board aware of an issue regarding property maintenance in Boone County. Last time I came to the board, we still had other committee structure, so it's been quite some time. Went to Health and Human Services, and that committee decided not to move forward on some of these issues. Just to give you some historical background there. And the issue has to do with people whose properties are in violation of our junkyard statute ordinance, as well as motor vehicle salvage yard ordinance. These are different properties within the county, which some of you may be familiar with. You drive by and they just have hordes of junk and cars sitting in their yard, and obviously they've been accumulating for quite some time, and that's how they get to this point. So we're at the point that we did file an ordinance violation against one of these properties. They are complaint driven. Numerous complaints came into the county on this property. We started with sheriff's deputies actually writing tickets for inoperable vehicles that were in the right of way. We were able to get him to move some of his vehicle, but all he did was move them back onto the property. So it is kind of what you typically would think of as, a house or yard just full of items. So we filed ordinance violations. We're at the point that most likely we're going to have a default judgment entered by the court. And one of the conditions of the order, not only would he be fined on a daily basis, is that the court would typically order him to clean up the property within 30 days or some other time frame if he were to appear to agree upon. And if it was not cleaned up, then the county would be able to go in and clean it up and put a lien on the property and basically, charge the property owner for the cleanup. And that's where the issue comes in, is that if the judge were to order that, does the county want to pursue that option? Because it would be probably quite expensive to clean up that property, and it would be an upfront cost for the county. We would not be able to get it back until the property was sold, and it's hard to tell if you put a lien on a property if you would actually get all that money back, because you don't know what the mortgage is on the property or such things. The other thing too is that you don't quite know what you're going to get into until you get on the property. Some of the things may be valuable, some may be very expensive to dispose of. So we're just looking for some guidance from the county board as to how you'd like us to proceed. And again, this is just an open discussion of, if you have questions, if you have comments, and then we can kind of go from there.
Dave Voltzy?
Thank you. I've actually been dealing with an issue similar to this for a couple of years, and appreciate the fact that you're bringing this discussion forward. The problem with some of these people is they just either don't get it or they don't want to get it. And if we take a test case or two and push it to judgment and get the liens and get the orders we need, it sends a message to other people in the neighborhood. One, to the neighbors that go, all right, they're doing something about this family. And other to people are thinking about, well, I don't know, I can get away with this. Now, the example I'll give you without an address or a name is one of these houses I've been working on. The building departments have been working with me on it. Finally, after the last final letter that it was going to go to the state's attorney's office, this guy hauled 3 truckloads, trailer loads of mowers, lawn mowers out of his backyard. I mean, that's the kind of stuff. And if you don't get the attention of these people, nothing ever changes. And this has been going on for 13 years and it's still not done. So I'm very encouraged by this, and I hope that you support this too. It might be expensive the first time around. We've got another house in Kennewick that we've got about ready to settle on a case. We've spent some considerable money in attorney's fees, but the message is beginning to get out that we're not going to tolerate it. And that's what we really need to do as a board, to enforce the idea that we're serious when we have these ordinances and we want to prosecute someone for violating them.
Sherry Giese?
I can't ask you where it's at, but I'm going to guess. It's on the south. Is this the issue on the south side of the county?
The one property that we have filed on is in the south portion of the county.
Okay, because there's another municipality down there that I know has contacted Boone County many times because they think it's in their jurisdiction out in the country. So I don't know if I'm just babbling now, but.
Unfortunately, it is in our jurisdiction.
No, I know that.
Oh, okay.
Oh, no, I know it.
I was saying that.
No. I know it's that, but I keep getting them telling me, get something done because it's on Boone County's property. we're not talking about a house, Dave. We're not talking about a house. We're talking about a house on steroids. What kind of, okay, now I'll ask a question. Is there any estimate of what the cost would be? I can't even imagine how you'll get rid of all that stuff. It's so awful. But now I know why they took some off the road. I get that, but any idea?
I have no idea.
No idea at all? It's really a problem.
Rodney?
I have dealt with this kind of stuff for 30 years plus, and, everybody gets excited, go out and cite these guys and try to, force compliance, get them to clean things up. You make a couple neighbors happy and then everybody kind of goes away. If you do not put some teeth into what you're doing to clean this stuff up, it's never going to happen. They're just going to continue to go. It's going to continue to stockpile. I, again, don't have any idea what it would cost to take care of some of this stuff to remediate these issues, but there's junk dealers out there. There's people looking for scrap. I would think that it would be, I don't know that we'd make any money right off the bat, but I would think that there would be some, retribution back from it, something we could get back from it if we move forward with this stuff. But if you don't have enforcement, you'll never get compliance, plain and simple.
Just real quick, Dan.
Go ahead, Dan.
Just as just something to consider too, and we can certainly explore this in more detail, but as a word of caution, it obviously depends on the site, but some of these sites that look like junkyards or salvage yards, there can be some serious environmental concerns. So just beyond have at a residence, and so as a county, especially as a government entity, there's something you could become I think it's a potentially responsible party, or I forget the wording, but we would really want to avoid that. If there is a site that has considerable cleanup costs, it could be 6 figures and even beyond if things have to go to hazardous waste landfills. The county really want to avoid being a list as one of those parties that would be responsible potentially for cleanup down the road. There could be a plume. We just don't know these things, and so that's something to. It would really be probably specific, but something to consider always too.
Sherry?
Well, but I think there's another thing to consider if you're talking about safety, because the stuff they've had in the road is a safety issue. I mean, it's right there in the roadways, and apparently they must have gotten somewhat of a message because they moved some of it back wherever they could, because there really isn't any safety issue there also. But let's just pretend for 2 seconds that there's still stability in this world and they take action and get rid of stuff. I mean, you know what I'm saying? It's really a problem. If I'm thinking of the right one, it's really.
And just so the board knows, filing the lawsuit is the last course of action.
Right.
We've had communication with property owners and for years trying to get them to move certain things, and we gradually kind of ratchet up what we're trying to do for compliance. So we're kind of at the end of the road with that.
Dave Wiltsey.
Just real quick, I've dealt with a couple of these kinds of cases too, and yes, you don't want to take ownership of that property. You don't want to be responsible for cleaning up, so you try to use the law appropriately to get the current owner to clean it up. And there's something that's even more significant here in Boone County. In Cook County, we had Lake Michigan water. You have a potentiality here if somebody's really contaminating a parcel, that they're contaminating the groundwater. And that's even more serious. So yeah, we don't want to get ownership, but we want to get cleanup, and we want to get cleanup at the property owner's expense.
Sherry?
Well, I think I appreciate you saying that, Tricia, because we're having some success in Garden Prairie, and that was, from what I understand, we're getting some. So you sequence it out and hope we don't ever have to go to a lawsuit. But yeah, I support totally sequencing out and keep moving forward, because it's been a problem for years.
Anybody else? Any questions, concerns, comments?
All right, thank you for the feedback.
Thank you. Appreciate your hard work.
Yes.
All right, moving on to raffles. We have 3, one with the Northern Illinois chapter of Delta Waterfowl Foundation, one with North Boone Booster Club, and one with the Belvedere Rotary Club that were signed. Intergovernmental reports and agreements, landfill, anything?
The only update would be I'm blanking, the service agreement that this board approved last month is now going to the city of Belvedere in their September cycle and will be approved this month. So just for the TRC services for 2022.
Any questions on that? Informational items and other business correspondence, UCCI. Board member comments? Yes, Sherry.
I just have a couple of, I'm asking for a couple of updates. Is there an update on the solar project for the landfill?
Yeah, I should have said it. They are working on, I believe, as Michelle reported last time, Spruce from TRC. They've actually reached out to Amoresco as the company and just waiting to get that update from them. As soon as we have it, we'll bring it back.
Okay. Can I go down?
Yeah.
And any update on the surplus sale bid?
Is on the draft agenda for next week.
Okay, thank you. One,
Nope, sorry, only 2. Okay, you can have another.
want to see my bottom lip?
Yes.
Outing?
You're good.
And what about the per diem special committee stuff? Is Michelle's working on that, right?
Yeah, we've put together some, a list. It should, maybe, we can get together and go.
Okay.
Over it. Yeah, maybe this next week or so about it. But yeah, we're moving that forward, so.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
Anybody else have any comments? All right, I believe the chairman had stated that we are not going into executive session, but there is something listed in executive session.
It's just continued information. As more stuff gets is available, it'll be in there.
Okay, thank you. With that being said, motion made by Dave Wiltsey, seconded by Freddie De La Trinidad. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Both same sides.
We adjourned at 8:28.